What's good, Kings fans? Uh, Shout out to the villains. This is episode two of MMM, M3, Triple M, whatever you want to call it. But Meti's Miami monologue. Um, just gonna give you my thoughts about the Virginia Tech thing, and I'm gonna move on and then give y'all my thoughts on Cal. So, um, to kind of get it out the way, I'll just give my grades of each section on the offense and the defense by position groups, and then give a little insight, and then just move on. So first things first, offensive line. I gave them a C plus. I think they were okay in pass protection. Um, First play of the game, you give up a pretty significant pressure. Incomplete pass to Damian Martinez. Second play of the game, you give up a pretty significant pressure. Cam tries to make a play out of it, ends up fumbling the ball. I don't know if they what they looked at. I can kind of go back and see maybe there was a forward pass. I couldn't really tell the trajectory of his arm or when the ball came loose, but nonetheless, it was ruled a fumble. Uh, Threw a huge belt, or excuse me, wrench in the momentum belt that would have gave Miami some momentum. Uh, Virginia Tech takes that momentum on our side of the 50, ends up scoring a touchdown. That was pretty open, if you ask me. We'll get into that in a second. They got they gathered themselves, figured it out rest of the game. Run blocking outside of the Chris Johnson play is pretty much non-existent. I don't know what needs to happen in regards to, which is crazy to say, right? Because Cam was the leading rusher. I think he had 50 some odd yards. But no, um, I think Dave Martinez still managed to pull off 60, if I'm not mistaken, in that game, which is insane to think about. But a lot of it was just, in my opinion, just I don't know. There just didn't seem to be a legitimate push from this team, where they or we can honestly say like, yep, this team is hands down, you know, killing it when it comes to getting the ball at the field. They're trying the different backs. Some seem to be working, some seem not to be. Like I said, I can't put my finger on it or what it is. Some people have suggested, start playing maybe playing some other running backs. But it's a nuanced position, right? It's not as simple as just saying, "Oh yeah, go play running back and you got it." No, you got to be able to do other things such as I don't know, run block. There's that, right? So, um, a lot of weird stuff about this game. Um, that I refuse to kind of like get too much into, but not just weird little stats and insights about this game. From the refereeing, the play calling, the timing, everything. Second half, it seemed like we figured it out. We were able to get our running game kind of going a little bit more. Um, yeah, Damian Martinez had 14 carries for 60 yards, and Cam's right behind with 10:57. He probably would have more, but obviously it takes into account sack yardage. Um, Made some great plays, but offensive line got to step it up. With that being said, uh, running backs, I give y'all a D plus, which is saying a lot because you're like, oh, we had 60 yards, which is like it just took way too long to establish the run, and it seemed as if Shannon Dawson's plan was to let Cam just kind of shred them through the air. It didn't seem like he really respected the secondary too much, despite the fact they had two of the better, actually four of the better defensive backs in the conference. Those guys are highly tenured. They've been there a long time. They may have even made some preseason, all conference lists. Um, well, I guess they felt more confident in Cam throwing it than them running it, and they obviously were trying to keep the running backs away from APR. You had Markel Bell on the left side, who I think was actually somewhat serviceable, contrary to popular belief. I just think that the referee's able to rattle him, mainly because the ghost holding call that just looked like an excellent pancake. It looked like, I don't know if that was AP on that side on that play, but it looked like he completely demolished APR. It wasn't even close. Once he did that, um, the flag comes flying and it wipes off an absolutely gorgeous back right corner of the end zone touchdown. Two toe tap by Jacoby George, one of the prettier balls that Cam has thrown, wiped off the board. Next play, takes a bad read. Defender kind of shades inside, turns around, picks the ball. He's down the sideline. Cam's tackling him out of bounds. So things like that are going to kind of get into my preview because I'm starting to feel like some people anticipated us being or having a loss along the way, and now that we don't, there's some energy that's coming towards us that I don't think is necessarily positive, right? But I digress. Wide receivers give them a B minus. They did pretty well. I have to give more credit to the other group, but as far as receivers, X led the way, five catches, excuse me, 60 yards. Jacoby George right behind him, 4 for 59. Sam Brown 3 for 30. And there is something that's becoming increasingly daunting about the way we play this offense. And I don't know if maybe it's because Cam is a right-handed quarterback, so he prefers to throw to the right side. But Sam Brown is getting tried, and I know the fan base has their feelings and opinions about Sam Brown. They were silenced last week against USF, or yeah, 2 weeks ago against USF. But it's hard to make a play when they're not throwing you the ball, and when they do, I think one of his first catches of the night was they put him on the right side in a screen look. It was just a poorly blocked, poorly executed play. He tried to make more. He ended up losing yardage in the long run. It was a mess. But we see that if Cam just looks his way on his read progressions, he can find them. But more often than not, I don't know what the route concepts are, but it seems like Sam just doesn't get the ball. I can't put my finger on it. I don't know what it is. I don't know why it's like this, but it's becoming concerning to me, right? So you're cutting off half the field, you know what I'm saying, when you're not giving them opportunities. I see they try to run, some diamond bunch sets, try to run some screens underneath that. He did have one play, I think it was one of his uh, better catches of the night, where Sam just kind of lined up in that bunch set, that bunch formation, and he just, first read, Cam just rockets it right to him, snatches it, big first down, like a 15 or 17-yard gain. Uh, Huge, right? 12 to 15-yard gain ish. And I think that's worth noting, right? So that, like I said, Cam is going to find those playmakers, but he just needs to do a better job kind of development. I don't know if it's because he just doesn't have trust in that left side. He's been missing his left tackle for some time now. He's a game time decision according to Mario, so we don't know if he's actually going to play or not. I would hope he does. I would hope his confidence isn't shot. I don't know what that means for Markel Bell. I don't know if there's a situation where they kind of move from Mirabal to pull the quote unquote five best on the field. You move Jalen back inside the left guard and then just keep Markel and just let it be a trial by fire because he's your left tackle of the future. I don't know. Nobody knows, right? So it's all speculation. But B for B minus for the receivers. It could have been more. But tight end unit as a whole is an A. From blocking to getting upfield to just making plays. Obviously, the Elijah Arroyo play, running down matter of fact, I'm gonna change it. What I have, an A? They get an A plus. Elijah Arroyo with that tackle. Mario kind of acknowledged it and he kind of said that he was, but I kind of feel bad. But I think Jacoby George is kind of his fault because Jacoby George had a similar effort against Clemson last year, um, running down and following the play. When Bashard ran and then he got punched out right at the end, he was able to run it down, follow the play, and jump on the field for the touchdown. So he ended up getting the score. But in theory, yeah, I think that's a similar play effort play, and that's what I love seeing about this university under Mario is that they fight for stuff. Elijah Arroyo was on the -3 yard line when that ball is picked. He turns around, pivots, and he's hauling ass. What was that like? I think they got them at their 17. So he basically runs the field length plus 14 yards. Tackles former King Caleb Spencer, who clearly had something on his heart in that game. Let's be clear. Caleb Spencer had a vendetta, right? I'm not speculating. I've heard rumblings he was asked to leave. He wanted to get closer. I don't know. I don't have that level of insight. But what I do know is Caleb Spencer woke up and chose violence against the University of Miami. And it was very clear. The tackling, they coming out like I don't even know. Someone said that he didn't start before that game. So I don't know if this just game had him that much more motivated, but he was very, very fired up to play the University of Miami, right? Um, I think with that play, Elijah kind of he's actually climbing up some people's radars. I don't know if he's going to declare. I think he hasn't put enough on film to do that because he's been injured. Um, but those are the type of efforts that might be one of the plays of the game. Not even his catch. He had a catch where he just straight up ran off the line on a play fake on like 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. Just runs a straight up go up the field. Defense is not paying attention. Cam does an excellent fake on the play fake. Um, Pivots, turns around, just lost it right to him, untouched. 50-yard touchdown, I think it was. Um, Cam McCormick has just been an unsung hero of the blocking department. We don't give him enough credit, but he scores the second touchdown of the year. It seems as if it's a rivalry game, there's a possibility Cam McCormick's gonna get the ball because there's 2 rivalry games and 2 times he's gotten the touchdown. So I think he's an unsung hero. The ball, I have to put this out there before I give Cam his grade. Excellent ball. He threw it where only Cam can get it in the back of the end zone, toe tap, lofts it like he lobs it right over the defender's head. The defender was jumping, trying to make a play on it, and it just landed perfectly. Like that's the type of stuff that is why I think day one of next year's draft, Cam getting a call on his phone. I don't know if he'll be in attendance or not. That's where they decide, but he's definitely getting the call. And then of course the Riley Williams play where he quite frankly got smacked on a blocking attempt, fell down, had the wherewithal to kind of get up and keep the play alive. That's something that Cam stated that him and his tight ends and all his players have kind of discussed that, hey, I'll get you the ball. Just stay in the play. Don't worry about blocking. He did it. He stayed in the play. Ends up getting a chest pass that he ended up taking down to the 2. And then, like I said on Twitter, go check the receipts. Having the wherewithal to to stay to not score or reach the ball out is huge because you gave them some time to work some clock, and that ultimately ended up being the difference. If he scores, that might be the difference between 3 seconds being left on the clock and 8 in the final play of the game. That could be the difference between getting another shot. That could be the difference between us trying to run plays and laterals and all that because we've lost the lead. I can't put that into words how significant that was. So like I said, having that wherewithal, being selfless enough to know I don't have to score. I could. This would be my first touchdown this season. I made an amazing effort, but there's time on the clock and we're trying to work clock, and I understand that from the coaching and talking on the sidelines is huge, and I can't put that into enough words. So that unit, I actually give them an A. I said A initially, but they get an A plus. QB Cam Ward, to give him a B minus. Good, not great, which is crazy to say, because the guy throws for 4, runs for 1, but the turnovers can't be overlooked, right? One of his biggest calling cards, unfortunately, on his journey to the University of Miami was his turnovers. We blamed it on the line, and let's be clear, some of that was, but there's two, as far as the fumble, but the two interceptions were just bad reads, bad balls, not looking off the defender, and just kind of putting in a position where the defender can make a better play than your receiver can. I think both those passes were to Xavier Streppel, and both of them were behind him or out of his reach. The second one to Caleb Spencer, I think he actually tipped it up. And Caleb Spencer just kind of cut off a deflection, actually trying to one-hand it, tipped it up. It falls to his lap. Well, X kind of gets hit or pushed off the route as he's going for it by Spencer. The defender comes trying to make a play. I think the defender may have tipped it up. I go back and look at it, and then it falls right into Caleb Spencer's hands. Takes it down the sideline. So, things to get fixed. Timing, getting some more routes on there, maybe getting some more routes on one-on-ones, and maybe you have throwing in a second defender over the top to kind of make sure you got your windows right this week. I would hope got emphasized in practice, and we could kind of move on from that. Now, transition to the special teams. They get an A. Matter of fact, I'm almost willing to give them an A+. The play to Chris Johnson to get in position to score, I don't know what that guy was thinking, but when you take a 10-point lead, I'm pretty sure it was at the time. Yeah, 10-point lead. Why you would squib the kick, I don't understand. I mean, hindsight's 2020 and we're all couch coaches, but I just feel like that didn't really necessarily make sense. But there's a lot of things that Brent probably did that the media will never talk about. If Mario Cristobal made some of these mistakes, people will be calling for his job if we lose that game. And I know it because people are thinking about that same time, game 5 last year when we lose to Georgia Tech. Right? Why didn't you take the knee? All that stuff. That's all people talked about. Now the media is, oh, they got cheated. It's like none of you can show me a clear. I'm not gonna do it. Show me a clear sign of that catch. Show me clear possession, and I still won't have that conversation with you, quite frankly. So it is what it is, right? Special teams to A. That thing by Chris Johnson, he almost breaks it actually, which would have made it a 3-point game instead of a 7. But Andy trots himself out there, kicks a career high 56-yarder. The damage goes from a double digit loss to or a double digit halftime deficit to just 7 points, and the game's manageable. Couple that with we get the ball in the second half, or no, they got the ball. I believe we got to stop, and yeah, the murder she wrote. Right, the rest is history. So shout out to them for that. Uh, Defensive line, D+. Um, and I'm having a hard time figuring out where to put Malik Bryant as that quote unquote jack linebacker. Some call him a stand up rush in. Some Gidry calls him a jack linebacker. So that's what I'm gonna call him. One of those 3-4 bodies that you put kind of on the edge, can put his hand in his dirt, can also stand up and spy, has the speed to break out, play the flats, play the zone curl reads, all those things. So it's clear that they found something with him, and they figured out how to kind of get a 2-for-1 out of him, which I was super impressed with. So I don't know where to put him. So I'm kind of factoring him out of my grades. These are just the grades of the dedicated units that fall in. Elijah Austin, I've heard rumblings he's hurt this week. I hope he's okay. But you lose him, and you get Ruben Bain. Um, Ruben Bain will be rusty. He may even be a little bit out of shape. I know he works out before, but he never actually suited up. So you see him in the warm ups before the guys throw their pads on. I see him personally. He trains with the other defensive linemen, trying to get them up to speed, up to par. And he has some opportunity to kind of come in and kind of show himself. But much like what's my man's name? Mesidor. Much like Mesidor, Mesidor had to take a couple, and he's still kind of like behind because he's been sitting out for a long time. Bain hasn't been sitting out as long, so I expect him to kind of get some pressure. But yeah, I expect to see him move on along the next defensive line. But particularly expect to see him get highlighted in that um, rush and roll because this guy is a statue, but they're like the last two teams have going to use a bunch of motions and half motions and things like that that kind of help confuse the defensive line because unfortunately it's been working. Dawson has been sound in his ability to kind of hold off the run. I'll talk about that in a second with the linebackers, but something's got to give because these guys are getting way too far out. Um, they're confusing the what's called and it's almost so that gives you had to kind of shift to a zone concept where you just pass off the defender and man coverage because they're just motioning so much. So teams have put that on film and they kind of realize that this may be emphasis on maybe, not saying it is, Gidry's kryptonite, motions and things like that. So now all these teams are gonna abuse it. Went back and watched, and sure enough, I watched DG Uyunglele, which is probably the last time he was a serviceable quarterback, for being honest. Him last year against Cal, and ironically enough, he threw for 275 and 5 touchdowns. He didn't have to run. David Martinez also had, you know, and I'll talk about that my keys in the game. Had 89 yards in the ground, uh, touchdown, I think. Um, and they were more than serviceable. They ended up winning 52-40, which was clearly a testament to the lack of defense. But the offense held the fort, so shout out to them. But the defensive line has to be able to get penetration on Mendoza because he is a no Diddy because he is a pocket passer, right? The Columbus High School out of Miami product, Le- Columbus legacy, former teammate with Mario. Um, he knows what he's doing. He knows how to get the ball out and pretty quick. So we have to capitalize on that when he gets it quick and kind of give him eye candy look at and then jump it. Um, but they're gonna motion. They're gonna motion. They're gonna use things like that. I saw one play in particular where he threw a touchdown. He motioned the receiver across the formation. Then kind of came with a design rollout, and as he's rolling out, he's kind of directing traffic and throws pretty much a dot to the back of the end zone um, on the run. So they're gonna have to use a lot of that pocket manipulation because our defensive line is not going to take it easy, which I'll talk about in my keys to the game. Linebackers D is solid D. I've been saying it for weeks now. I don't think people have been hearing me, but Francis Mauigoa is borderline on the he's borderline on the way to regression. I don't know what happened, but it seems like he's taking a step back. He's getting to the play. He's missing tackles. He's hitting with no conviction. I don't know if he's hurt. I don't know if something. I know he had some shoulder surgery in the offseason. He missed the entire spring. Um, we obviously didn't see none of the scrimmages. But he's not doing the things that we need him to do as far as like setting that tone as a linebacker. Wesley, twofold, is kind of regressing from where he was early season. Early season, Wesley, I think, was probably one of the best linebackers in America. The way he was playing side on the sideline, getting downhill, being aggressive, and it just seems like every week he's like dialing it back a little bit. I don't know what's happening. That's where I have that weird confliction with Malik Bryant because Malik Bryant, when he has lined up in linebacker, has been fantastic. Um, I don't see much out of Alderman. Matter of fact, I don't think Alderman even dressed. I think he was hurt. I don't think he even dressed because I saw shout out to Kappa King. I saw his post game and I actually seen a scene where after they make the announcement, he's following Mario, who's trying to find Brent Pry for the handshake. I see um, Akeem Mesidor is doing this and getting ready to talk shit basically to the Virginia Tech players, and Radakovich kind of come and rallies him up, and walking with Radakovich is an undressed Alderman. He just has his jersey on, and Rakovic is kind of like trying to pull them all together because he obviously want to fight or something to break out. Because we don't need another one of those FIU Miami situations. If you know, you know. Um. So yeah, there's a clearly a situation there where the linebackers need to give me more, especially this week. Like I said, with all that motion and it seems like ever since teams started doing that, it's thrown it. That's why I've probably said since USF, it's probably been a steady regression from the linebacker core. Against Ball State, against what's called they were, Ball State and FAMU. Like even Florida, there was a clear there was a sign, but I don't know. It feels like they've kind of lost that motivation. So I just need to see them bring it up. But for this game, yeah, D bad. DB's also D. Starts with a D, but that mean they're pause. They're not remiss from getting that grade because yeah, it has not been good for this defensive back core. You can tell that the team was leaning on their defensive line to set the tone, and the DBs would kind of clean up, and that was very clear in the Florida game. Now I can't say that with any serious uh, compassion anymore because it seems like I said, same thing, a regression. Shout out to Meach Powell, got his third interception of the year. He is, I think, tied for fourth in America with a lot of guys for 3 interceptions. Shout out to him, but all night, just I'm seeing him come down the box, miss tackles. Jaden Harris, embarrassingly, was blocked out of a play by a quarterback, which is crazy to think about. But those who have been with me from the beginning of the season know I've been very critical about Jaden Harris. I think he's missing something now. In the building, USF, the man was flying around. He was getting down. He was like a damn missile. You just had to he kind of just stood out. Um, but yes, since then, this was a huge step back for him. And I think a lot of it, once again, had to deal with the lack of defensive line pressure. Elijah Austin, I can count, had at least 2 sacks where he went high and Kyron Jones just literally evaded him and got the hell up out of there and usually made a play. I think he threw 2 touchdowns off of both of Elijah Austin's missed tackles. And so I don't know what's up with Austin. He had a few opportunities to make a play, and he just couldn't do it. Right? Somehow, oddly enough, we managed to get sacked in that game. I thought Malik Bryant had the only sack in the game, but apparently we had quite a few. So I think we ended up with 2.5 or 3. We finished with two sacks. Malik Bryant was credited with half a sack, which is crazy. Popo actually got a sack. Shout out to Popo, who has been flashing. He's been Popo is the reason why they don't have an F or a D minus. Shout out to Popo. TJ Clark is credited with half a sack, and yep, that's it. 2 sacks, which is crazy because we're the number 2 pressure rate in America. We pressure 45% of the time, and somehow, and I credited Kyron Jones, but I feel like when you've had 3 of the 4-ish games leading into this one with guys who are what you would consider mobile, I said it in the preview that we've gotten enough practice with this. So I don't know what happened. I don't understand, but it's neither here nor there. Um, so Cal Golden Bears, right? Let's talk about this. The last time Cam Ward played this team last year, it was the 6th game of a 6-game losing streak for his Washington State Cougars. It was bad. Started UCLA, then ended up losing to UCLA, Arizona, number 9 Oregon, Arizona State, Stanford, in an inexplicable 10-7 game, which is crazy to me. And then lost that game 42-39. It was 34-59 for 354, 3 touchdowns, an interception, and a fumble. Now, here's one thing that I realized about this Cal team. And not to discredit them, I'm not trying to, but it seems like these dudes They must have every player on the team must have a damn three-leaf clover in their sock because I've seen some of the most mind-boggling and baffling plays for them to score and get takeaways. Here's an example: Cam Ward 4th and 1, they're going for it. First quarter, not understand, not really sure why, but maybe ESPN analytics thing. He goes to rush the ball, they get stuffed. Somewhere in the commotion of all this, the ball pops out, and their Ruben Bain, Ula Ulaluave, I want to say it is, Pac-12 Defensive Rookie of the Year, Freshman of the Year, apparently jumped over the line, knocked the ball out. There was a scrum, a commotion. The ball ends up skirting out backwards behind Cam Ward. He sees it, picks it up, runs it in for a touchdown. That game had a play where I think it was Jaden Ott was rushing for a touchdown on the goal line, got knocked out. Not one but two O linemen got hands on the ball. The O lineman ends up diving in the end zone. It's like every inconceivable way you could think of, this team figured out a way to score, and it threw me off because I like you would think, okay, maybe that was just one game, but if you watch everything that they do, like it seems like it seems like teams lose coaching focus, right? I'll give you another example. The Auburn game, it ended up getting called back, but same thing. This year, Auburn at Jordan Hare, dude goes to pitch the ball. When he pitches it, it bounces off of somebody, off of his hands. It hits the ground eventually, but they thought it eventually hit somebody's foot, bounced up, picked up. The same kid, Uwalave, takes it in, picks it up, takes it in, touchdown. And this is on their first series as well. Fortunately, the ball hit the ground, so they called it incomplete forward pass. But just like those are the type of things that this team is aware and opportunistic. Um, they figure out the most odd and awkward ways to score, to win, all of that. Now, granted, it has become very clear to me that the media is absolutely on board with watching Miami lose. I think there's a reason why they chose game day. I think there's a reason why they chose to go all the way to. People aren't that interested in Miami, and I would argue there are probably way better games this weekend than Miami versus Cal. But for some reason, game day, which will for them start at 6 a.m., 9 a.m. Eastern, and I think it's 1,000% because they want to get as raucous of a crowd as they can there because they want to see Miami lose. We're at that time of season, folks. It happened last year, Game 5. Like, I think every and anything that you think can happen as far as bad calls, bad refereeing, questionable coaching decisions that may or may not benefit the Cal Bears, it will happen. And what I'm concerned with is a team who absolutely look lethargic, and we can blame it on the travel possibly, because you're going back in time or you're going forward in time instead of back in time. Could be the reason why, right? But with that being said, let's get to my keys of the game. Um, this isn't very hard to figure out, right? They aren't necessarily good against Auburn, and I don't think Auburn's a good team. Only two teams in the ACC have beaten the SEC team. The rest of the conference is absolutely laying a let egg, pissed on their leg, one was too big, weren't really athletes, and provided further ramifications that have bled into the actual rankings. That's why we only have three ranked teams in the entire top 25, despite having the fact that we have other undefeated teams in this conference. But I digress. If you don't hope you're end of the bargain, you can't expect the media to do it for you. Auburn is a bad football team. I watched Auburn piss down I think a double-digit lead to end up losing to Oklahoma, which is insane to me. And not losing my own, the game ended up not being close for Oklahoma, which is mind blowing. But they beat them, so they can say they got an SEC team beat on their resume. even if Auburn ends up being a terrible team, and Auburn has a murder's row coming up in the next couple of weeks. But what I noticed is that they were opportunistic and aware for a bad quarterback. Cam Ward is not a bad quarterback. I just gave you a stat line from last year, and barring he threw the ball 60 times for 354. Um, that is more of a testament to the type of team he had around him, in my opinion. I think he has significantly upgraded everything around him. So the game should be way different than his last time in that stadium was. I'll leave it at that. This team performed against Leon County and can muster nothing more than field goals. I can tell you right now, that will not happen. I don't know how, but these teams, they wake up from Miami and the guys who normally are used to doing minimal to almost nothing, they somehow figure out how to be superstars when that U logo on the side of the helmet comes to town. I don't get it. I've been watching it for over 2 decades now. Good or bad, it does not matter. The idea is to beat Miami. I don't know what it is about Miami. I don't know what it's about the ratings. I don't know about but it seems like there's this lure to Miami to watching them lose that teams will play the best football of their entire lives collectively and individually when the University of Miami is there. So expect it again. Cal will do things. They'll run trick plays, which they've done to other teams already this year. Trick plays, anything under the sun that they can think of, they will do. If you give them the ball, they will take advantage of it. I'll leave it there until I get to my keys of the game. But against Leon County, they were absolutely horrific. Managed 9 points. They lost 14-9 against one of the. Now, granted, last time he played them, he was a serviceable to almost elite type quarterback. 275, 5 touchdowns. And if I had to stack it up player to player, I can't say with any certainty that the team that he fielded with Oregon State is head and shoulders better than the team he has at Florida State. I can promise you there wasn't a single 5-star receiver on Oregon State last year. But number 7, I think it is, their number 7, he played like it. He had 117 through the air. Making it, he was their Xavier Restrepo, Anthony Gould, going crazy, right? I would argue that Anthony Gould wouldn't crack the the 3 deep at Florida State with the guys they have there. That's where coaching matters. Fast forward to that game, terrible. Wasn't good. Couldn't get in the end zone, but they're gonna figure out a way against Miami. I promise you. They came off a bye. They're saying Jaden Ott's supposed to be healthy. We'll see. Granted, we get some guys back too, which is good. Had a little bit of a longer week because we played Friday night. We'll be traveling Thursday, which is the day after the recording of this video. So we'll see. All right, so here's my keys to the game, and then I'll get up out of here. Offense got to find explosive plays early and often, not turnovers. You can't turn the ball over. Cam, you've been here before. You on a 6-game losing streak. I'm sure morale was down in your locker room. It wasn't up. This team probably felt some type of way. Probably a lot of finger pointing and blaming going on. You ain't got to worry about that. This team seems as connected as I've ever seen a Miami Hurricanes team, and the stars are aligned. You got game day. You got the rest of the nation who feels like you were cheated or saved by ACC officials, which is insane to me. Not the fact they had 2 number 17s on the field during a field goal that, if what's called, would have made it a 60 plus. The guys didn't kick it. Not the fact that you called a ghost call, holding call that was clearly not a holding call that would have gave Miami a 21-7 lead. Nah, none of that matters. It's the fact that a pass that nobody can show me was completed. We cheated them, but nobody had this when they missed not one but 2 safeties against Florida State and Clemson, the 2 best teams on our roster last year. That probably would have changed the momentum and the outcome of those games. And it wasn't a problem when it clearly was not a fumble. Don Cheney was clearly down. There was no there was no sudden flabbergastedness collectively from everybody. Everybody was cool. So don't make it close, right? I'll let you run the score, but we just know that at this point, with all the people banged up and kind of guys in and out of the rotation, it's just not sustainable, right? I think there's a possibility you could see a Marquise Williams. You could probably see a Zaquan Patterson playing safety. I don't know what the status is of Jaden Harris, but we'll see. You can't turn the ball over. You turn the ball over, this team is opportunistic with it. I don't know if they're going to score with it, but it just creates momentum that we can't give them. I think a lot of that happened with Virginia Tech is because we gave them momentum. They didn't know what to do with it, but we gave it to them, and in some cases, they took multiple double-digit leads. They fumbled it in the end, but the point is you can't give that to them because if you give it to them, this team will take it and run with it. Simple. For the and here's my biggest part, and the thing that I need to happen, not because one, he's back on his side of the country, even though he's a Texas guy ish, but two, Damian Martinez needs to go off. You were paid a large sum of money to be a bruising downhill running back. Now, granted, I will give you this. In Oregon State's offense, they ran a lot of single back, a lot of, H backs, tight ends in the backfield, kind of giving that extra blocking, which appeared to help him. Here, he lines a lot more up. He lines up a lot more often because it wasn't an air raid system he ran at Oregon State. He lines up a lot more often next to, and that's probably the reason why he seems so reluctant to run because where a fullback would usually be crashing in front of him to assist with that zone blocking scheme. Now he's just taking the ball off the handoff and just going with the offensive line. Maybe Dawson can implement that some way, but Dawson got to figure out a way to get him going. And if he's not going, it's cool, but get a Mark Fletcher in there. Get it, Chris Johnson in there. Get an AJ Allen in there. Definitely get a Jordan Lyle in there if you can. Get those guys in there and kind of get them, make it a pick your poison type situation. So you kind of take some of the pressure off of Cam. You use the run to establish the pass. And last week, we tried to use the pass and then establish the run. And it almost was diabolical and detrimental to the success of the team. Can't have that happen, right? So Dave Martinez got to go off. He's familiar. He's back on his side of the country. He's back to something that he's familiar with. He's played there before. He's familiar with this team. He knows what they're willing to do. Same thing with Cam Ward. Same thing with Kiko Maui same thing with a lot of guys for West Coast base. Mario Cristobal. There's a lot of people who know this, and they have to step up and be the leaders of the team. Nothing else. Last thing, and my last point, defense. The defense line got to turn this nasty back on. It's been dwindling the last couple of weeks, almost as if like they were too, and it reared its ugly head. Because when you faced Kyron Jones, you did what he wanted to, in and outside that pocket. You missed runs, you didn't look good. The defensive line needs to turn the nasty back on. Maybe getting Bain back does that. Maybe because Bain wasn't there, kind of leading that effort, and they kind of got accustomed to not being there with him. Cool, but Simeon Barrow, Tyler Barron, who damn near seemed unblockable the first couple of weeks, he ends up kind of just like, I know he got banged up a little bit, but if he's good to go, like, pin your ears back and go get the QB. With that being said, last point, the DB is going to go as the 7 guys in front of them go. Period. So the linebackers, you need to be back there backing up the defensive line because, like I said, those guys popping out, you need to get nasty and hit those guys and make them understand, like, we're not allowing that in here. Ain't shit sweet over here, man. With that being said, man, I appreciate y'all. I know I've been out of commission a little bit. I've been doing the Caneville thing. I've been over here, but I'm moving back and forth from all over the country. I'm back in North Dakota for a little bit. It's a lot. The hurricane. So I appreciate y'all, man. We're going to stay locked in. And if you was ever wondering, man, media, naysayers, Florida State fans, USF fans, Cal Gold, whatever. If we down bad, if we struggle, man, let you understand something, man. We good.